Hello everyone, welcome to Cardboard Chemistry. I'm your host, MTG Labman, and today I want to go over the Elder Dragons that were just spoiled for Secrets of Strixhaven, rank the Elder Dragons from my least favorite to my most favorite, and some cards that go with each Elder Dragon. Super stoked for Secrets of Strixhaven. Looks like it's going to be a really solid set. Plan on doing a couple episodes. This one, go over the face commanders and backup commanders for the commander precons in another episode, and then probably go over my favorite cards once the full set is released. So that being said, let's get started. Let's go over the Elder Dragons. As you all know, and if you don't, Strixhaven College. Each color combination has a Elder Dragon that is the head of the college, and for Secrets of Strixhaven, each one of those Elder Dragons gives an ability to instants and sorceries. So let's get started. Number 5 is on my list is Quandrix the Proof. 4 colorless, and then 1 blue and a green, Simic, or Quandrix in this case, commander. 6/6 flying trample, a legendary creature, Elder Dragon, that has Cascade, and then instants and sorcery spells you cast from your hand have Cascade. So Simic, good stuff. Simic's known for ramping, taking long indeterministic turns. This is basically Simic on a card. Cascade, usually you see it in Temur with the splash of red to Simic, so you are a little bit more restricted with cascading, but honestly not the most exciting card. Yeah, a 6/6 flying trample with Cascade is good. Giving your other things, other instants and sorceries Cascade, right, is just going to lead to more turn time, more just longer turns. If you're running this as your commander, you're going to want ways to untap your lands, untap your permanents. So running cards like Seedborn Muse, 3 colorless, 2 green for a 2/4 spirit, untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step, will allow you to cascade on your opponent's turns. As long as you have like a draw engine with like Guardian Project or something that you can draw cards. Thunderclap Drake, 1 colorless and a blue. Flying 2/1 instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Right, and then you can pay 2 and a blue, sacrifice Thunderclap Drake. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it for each time you cast your commander from the command zone this game. And then, Wilderness Reclamation, 3 colorless and a green. At the beginning of each end step, untap all lands you control, just allow you to do what Simic does, right? Simic's always about big mana, it's always about ramping, and drawing cards. It's a value engine, very value engine focused color combination, right? Green's always about ramp, blue's about card draw. It's a very advantageous color combination, but I kind of just wish they would have done something besides giving instants and sorceries Cascade on Simic. Move on to number 4. Lorehold the Historian, 3 colorless, 1 red and a white. So Boros or Lorehold if you're going off of Strixhaven colors. For a 5/5 flying haste legendary creature Elder Dragon, each instant and sorcery card in your hand has Miracle 2. Miracle 2, Miracle works as if you would draw a card. If it's the first card you draw, you can, and it has Miracle, you can cast it for its Miracle cost. Miracle also bypasses timing restrictions, so if you Miracle a sorcery, you can cast the sorcery on another player's turn. You don't have to it's not a dead card. It's not going to, you can't draw it and then it'd be a dead card. So Miracle works and bypasses timing restrictions that way. Lorehold's last ability: at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So that's what Miracle works. You can, each opponent's upkeep, you discard a card. If you draw a card and that card has Miracle, or if it's instant and sorcery, it has Miracle, you can pay 2 to cast it. So actually pretty exciting commander. The one card that pinged the internet as soon as Lorehold was announced is Library of Lang. Library of Lang is a 1-mana colorless artifact. It basically says, errata text is, if you were to discard a card, you can discard that card to the top of your library instead. So with Lorehold, if you have an instant in your hand instant or sorcery in your hand that you really want to cast for 2 mana, if you have Library of Lang out, you can discard it to the top of your library, draw it that turn on your opponent's upkeep, and then cast it for 2. So really good. You could manipulate your library to make sure the card that you want is on top to draw, and then Miracle it. So you could run Sensei's Divining Top and Skull Rack and do that for top deck manipulation. But other options, if you don't have top deck manipulation, can run Monument to Endurance, right? Great card from Aether Drift, 3 colorless for artifact. Whenever you discard a card, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, create a treasure token, or each opponent loses 3 life. Right, you're doing this you're discarding a card on each of your opponent's upkeeps, so 3 times around the table. Right, if you choose the last option, you're pinging everybody for 9 life in a turn rotation, or you're creating 3 treasure tokens, or you're drawing 3 cards in a turn rotation. So really good card. Another card is Cool But Rude, just came out in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. 1 colorless and a red. Whenever you attack, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card that's level 1 of the enchantment class. You can pay 1 red and a colorless to level it up. When this at level 2, whenever you discard a card, this class deals 2 damage to each opponent. So like a Monument to Endurance, like a 4-mana Monument to Endurance, basically. Ping everybody for 2 every time you discard a card. If you have this out and you're doing the Miracle thing every turn, Lorehold's ability every turn, you're basically hitting the table for 6 in a turn rotation, so can quickly drain down enemies. Moving on, some cards that you'd like to Miracle. Hit the Mother Load, 4 colorless, 3 red. Sorcery, discover 10. If the discovered card's mana value is less than 10, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to the difference. All right, so to discover, you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card with, in this case, mana value 10 or less. You can cast that without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you could cast this card. If you don't want to cast it, you can return it to your hand. You can put it to your hand. You create treasure tokens equal to the difference. And if it's a card that you want to Miracle out later, now you have mana and you have the ability, now that it's in your hand at your next opponent's upkeep, you could discard that card, draw it, and Miracle it if you have Library of Lang out. Another card, Call Forth the Tempest, 5 colorless, 3 red. It has Cascade. So as soon as you cast this, you're cascading for 8 twice. And Call Forth the Tempest deals damage to each creature your opponents control equal to the total mana value of other spells you've cast this turn. Right, so you can cast this for its Miracle cost. The way it works, you'll Cascade twice, you'll cast those for free. And then this will resolve. So whatever you ping off of, you can hit your opponent's creatures for, it's going to be random chaos, whatever you get, but it acts as a board clear. A real fun card. Doesn't see a lot of play, but because it's 10 mana value for Storm Herd, 8 colorless and 2 white. Create X 1/1 white Pegasus creature tokens with flying, where X is your life total. Miracle this for 2, even if you're half your starting life total, even if you're at 20 life in a commander game, you're creating 21/1 flyers. And probably somebody at the table isn't running a deck that has flying. So pretty easy to swing in then. Another card, Apex of Power, another 10 mana spell, 7 colorless, 3 red. Exile the top 7 cards of your library until end of turn. You may cast spells from among them. If the spell is cast from your hand, add 10 mana of any one color. Well, because Miracle technically casts it from your hand, you can cast this for 2, get 10 mana, and then you can exile the top 7 cards of your library and cast them. So really, really solid card to run with Miracle. And the last one is Dance with Calamity, 7 colorless and a red. You shuffle your library, and then as many times as you choose, you may exile the top card of your library. If the total mana value of cards exiled this way is 13 or less, you may cast any number of spells from among those without paying their mana costs. So shuffle your deck, and then I like to call this the blackjack scenario. You exile the top card of your library, and then if you're getting close, if you're getting 10 mana of spells, do you risk exiling another card to let it fizzle, or do you just say, okay, I'm at 10 mana value of spells, let me cast these for free and go. Moving on to number 3 of the Elder Dragons is Prismari the Inspiration. 5 colorless, 1 blue, and a red. So is it or Prismari we're in the Strixhaven universe. For a 7/7 flying ward, pay 5 life. So if you want to target this thing, you got to pay an additional 5 life. Instant and sorcery spells you cast have Storm. Note that this one doesn't say instant and sorcery spells you cast from your hand have Storm. Instant and sorcery spells you cast from anywhere have Storm. So, not a lot to say about this one. It's Spellslinger Storm, right? It's a Storm commander. If it's in the 99, you're another Storm engine. You're going to want to ramp to this guy. You're going to try to get it out as fast as you can. You don't want to play this. I have a feeling like you don't want to play this and then try to storm off the next turn. 5 life in a commander game really isn't a lot. And I'm kind of glad it's not like ward pay 5 mana, because we all know what high ward costs do. 5 life, okay, I'll pay 5 life to remove a 7 mana value commander off the battlefield that you got to pay 9 for next time. But cards you want to see, you're going to want to run your rituals. You're going to run Seething Song, 2 colorless and a red, add 5 red mana to your mana pool. Pyretic Ritual, 1 colorless and a red, add 3 red mana to your mana pool. Desperate Ritual, 1 colorless and a red, add 3 mana to your mana pool. 3 red mana to your mana pool. Right. These are going to be ways to ramp into Prismari, but also if it's out, right, and you start storming, you can use these to boost the amount of mana you have to continue to storm. Stormkiln Artist, 3 colorless and a red from the original Strixhaven. 2/2 Dwarf Shaman. This creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token, right? So if you start storming, you're creating treasure tokens. You're getting a treasure for every card that storms, every copy that's made from storm. So really solid in the deck, gives you more mana to continue to storm. Strike it rich, 1 red, and it's just create a treasure token, and then it has flashback for 2 and a red. So you can strike it rich. If you have a storm count already going and this has storm, right, create a treasure token. Flashback, you are casting it from your graveyard. So Prismari says instant and sorceries have storm, so you're flashbacking this from your graveyard, it's going to have storm if Prismari's out, and add to your storm count and create more treasure tokens. Real fun one is Snap, 1 colorless and a blue for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand, and then untap up to 2 lands, right? You start storming, your storm counts at 3. You cast this, you create 3 copies, you bounce 4 creatures, you untap 8 lands, and you just can continue to storm. Bolt Wave, 1 red. Bolt Wave deals 3 damage to each opponent, right? Your storm count's high, you cast this, you copy it 5-6 times. You're dealing 15 to 18 damage to each opponent just from a 1 mana spell. And lastly, Chandra's Ignition, 3 colorless, 2 red. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Your commander is a 7/7. So if you cast this targeting your commander, even if you've only cast 1 other spell and you copy this once, you're dealing 14 damage to each opponent and 14 damage to each other creature, basically wiping the board. Even casting this on your commander is going to deal 7 damage to your opponent and 7 damage to each other creature. So pretty decent board wipe. But like I said, it's Storm. It's going to do what any Storm deck does. There's going to be a big turn where the Storm player is going to storm off. Moving on to number 2 on my list is Silver Quill, the Disputant. 2 colorless, 1 white and a black, so 4 mana value Orzhov Dragon, or Silver Quill Dragon in the Strixhaven universe. For a 4/4 flying vigilance, each instant and sorcery spell you cast has casualty 1. Casualty, you sacrifice a creature with power equal to or greater than the casualty cost, and then you get to copy that spell. So this is originally introduced in like a Grixis precon, I think from New Capenna. But seeing it in Orzhov seems like it's a little bit better of a color combination for it to be in, because Orzhov's about aristocrats, right? So sacrificing creatures for value. First thing you're going to want to do, you're going to want to create fodder to use for casualty. So new cards like Endless Foot Assault, 2 colorless and a white, with Squad 1 and a white. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you may pay 1 and a white. Any number of times when this enchantment enters, you create that many tokens that are copies of it. And Endless Foot Assault says, whenever you attack for each opponent, create a 1/1 black ninja creature token that's tapped and attacking that player. So, right, create a bunch of little 1/1 tokens. If it's an instant speed, you can then use those tokens to casualty out whatever instant you cast. A really solid card is also from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set, Rat King Verminister. 1 colorless and a black. It has Disappear. At the beginning of your end step, if any permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn, you create a 1/1 black rat creature token and put a +1/+1 counter on Rat King. Now, other ability, tap, sacrifice 3 rats, return target creature card, and all other creatures with this name from that graveyard to the battlefield tapped. You're not going to really be running a bunch of creatures with the same name. The first ability is what you want to look at, though, because you sacrifice a permanent to casualty, and then you get a rat, right? So you're constantly getting value. Granted, it's only on your end step, but if you do it during your turn, you're getting value off of sacrificing the creature. You're basically replacing the body. Another card that will help with tokens is Sedgemoor Witch, 2 colorless and a black, 3/2 human warlock with menace. Ward, pay 3 life, so somebody has to pay 3 life if they want to target it. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain a life. So whenever you cast the spell, whenever you copy it, with casualty, you're creating a pest. So you're getting 2 pests for casualtying a spell. So it just allows you to build up bodies to sacrifice to the casualty cost. Next is Monastery Mentor, right? 2 colorless and a white for a 2/2 human monk with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a monk, right? More fodder to use for casualty. The last card I want to talk about for fodder is Ophiomancer, 2 colorless and a black, 2/2 human shaman. At the beginning of each end step, if you control no snakes, or at the beginning of each upkeep, if you control no snakes, create a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch. Basically, you can use that snake, casualty it on your next opponent's upkeep. You create a snake, and if you can continue to do that around the table, you have endless fodder to casualty spells. Some fun spells that I think will be fun to run in this deck, this shell. Afterlife Insurance. I think this came out in the clue set from Murderers of Karlov Manor. 1 colorless and a hybrid Orzhov, so you can play 1 colorless and a black or 1 colorless and a white to cast this. Creatures you control gain Afterlife 1 until end of turn, and then you draw a card. Well, if you casualty this, they get Afterlife 1, and then they get Afterlife 1 again. So it puts 2 instances of Afterlife 1 on them. And Afterlife is, whenever this creature dies, you create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. So you basically, if somebody board wipes you, hey, I'm going to casualty this, I'm going to cast this twice, and all my creatures get Afterlife 1, and then they get Afterlife 1 again. So you create 2 1/1 spirits for each creature of yours that died. So you basically get instant board state back. And the spirits have flying, so if your creatures didn't have flying, there you have a double the creature flying board state. Another card to create tokens that's fun is Call the Coppercoats, 2 colorless and a white. It has Strive. You can pay 1 and a white in addition to the cost to target additional targets. But ability, choose any number of target opponents, create X 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens where X the number of creatures those opponents control. This, you could pay 2 and a white, casualty it, choose the player with your opponent with the most creatures, and you create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens for every creature that they control. Just seems like, hey, try to attack me now, I got a bunch of chump blockers, or I got a bunch of fodder to continue to casualty my spells. Big spells that you're going to want to copy. Debt to the Deathless, X, 2 white, 2 black. Each opponent loses 2 times X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. If you, say, put 5 into X, and then you casualty it, you're dealing 20 damage to each opponent and gaining 60 life. So a good card to casualty. Another big card, fun card, Breach the Multiverse, 5 colorless, 2 black. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker in that player's graveyard, put those cards on the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So if you casualty this, everybody's milling 20 cards. You're getting 8 creatures or planeswalkers on the battlefield under your control. And you know 8 of their most, or 2 of your most powerful creatures, 6 of their most powerful creatures or planeswalkers. Just seems like a real fun spell to casualty. And Last but not least, for spells to casualty, probably the funniest thing I can think of, Beacon of Immortality. 5 colorless and a white for an instant. Double target player's life total, and then you shuffle Beacon of Immortality into its owner's library. Well, casualty this, and you're quadrupling your life total, right? If you're at 40 life, you're going to 160 life, and then it's like, all right, well, the only way that you're going to be taking out is commander damage. And you have, if you're casualty you're calling the copper coats and stuff like that, you're going to have a lot of fodder to throw out in front of players to pad your life total. Moving on, last but not least, probably my favorite Elder Dragon that's been announced for Secrets of Strixhaven. Probably the most powerful one. If you've listened to my podcast or seen my posts on Blue Sky or even some of my comments, I don't like running real high mana value commanders. I like to be able to cast my commander multiple times in a game. And this commander, though it's at 8 mana value, has a cost reduction built into it. And so, without further ado, Witherbloom the Balancer, 6 colorless, 1 black and 1 green, so Golgari or Witherbloom in this case. For a 5/5 legendary creature Elder Dragon with flying and death touch, instant and sorcery spells you cast have affinity for creatures, and it itself has affinity for creatures. Affinity, older mechanic, first in the Mirrodin block, was affinity for artifacts. This is affinity for creatures, so this costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control, so it reduces the generic mana cost. If you have 6 creatures, right, Witherbloom costs 1 black and a green to put onto the battlefield. So it reduces all of the generic mana values of your spells by the amount of creatures that are on your board. You're going to want to ramp into this thing. You're going to run your Llanowar Elves. You're going to run your Mana Dorks. Other cards, just speaking of mana-wise, like Enduring Vitality, Insidious Roots, cards that give your creatures or your tokens abilities to tap for mana are going to be double beneficial in this deck. All of your spells are going to be reduced by the amount of creatures that you have on the battlefield, right? Your commander is going to be reduced by the amount of creatures you have on the battlefield. So then if your tokens and your creatures can tap to add mana, you're going to be playing big X spells in this deck. You're going to be playing cards like that. So you want the ability to pump in as much mana as you can. So giving your creatures abilities a tap for mana, and then having a bunch of creatures on the battlefield is going to be super beneficial. So cards that create with X that create tokens that are going to be fun to run in this deck. Pest Infestation, XX and a green. Destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature or when this token dies, you gain a life. So you can wipe out a bunch of artifacts or enchantments and then create twice that many tokens that are going to then continue to reduce your spells. And if you have something that makes your creatures tap for mana, going to give you a bunch more mana to pump into X. Awaken the Woods, X and 2 green. Create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. Yeah, they're affected by summoning sickness, but they are dryad lands, so those creature tokens are going to tap for mana anyway. So gives you more ways to ramp, gives you more bodies on the battlefield to reduce your spells. Finishers, you're looking at like Exsanguinate, X and 2 black. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. You have 6 creatures on the battlefield. This costs 2 black. You're in whatever mana you have, 6 plus whatever untapped lands you control besides the 2 black to play it. You can easily drain each player for 8, 9, 10 life, and then you gain 30 life, and there you're getting harder you're cushioning yourself from getting removed from the game. Torment of Hellfire, X and 2 black. You repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. Right, as soon as you start getting into like 5, 6 for X, like either you're sacrificing 6, each opponent's sacrificing 6 non-land permanents or discarding 6 cards, or they're losing 3 life, right? If you get this up to like 10, which, with it being reduced is going to be pretty simple. You're talking, all right, sacrifice 10 non-land permanents or discard 10 cards, and unless they have no maximum hand size and have been drawing a bunch of cards, they're not going to be able to discard cards. And then you're just going to value them out of the game. Go back to token producers, 2 cards I really want to talk about are Sprout Swarm and Lab Rats. Sprout Storm is 1 green and a colorless instant with Convoke, so each creature you tap while playing this reduce its mana value. It has buyback 3, which is kind of important. If you have 4 creatures and one of them is at least green on the battlefield, you can cast this for free because buyback is an addition cost, but affinity for creatures will reduce that cost, and so you put a green sapperling into play. You can infinite generate tokens with Sprout Swarm if you have enough creatures on the battlefield, because your new sapperling will then continue to add and allow you to convoke Sprout Swarm. Lab Rats is similar, but it doesn't have Convoke. It's 1 black with buyback 4, and you can put a rat creature token onto the battlefield. So you could, if you have black in 4 creatures on the battlefield with Witherbloom out, you can buy this back and play it again, and as long as you have enough black mana, you can play that card multiple times to create more and more tokens. Card that was originally banned that is now on the game changer list, seems perfect to be adding to this deck, is Biorhythm. 6 colorless, 2 green, but if you have 6 creatures on the battlefield, this costs 2 green to cast. Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls. So if you cast a big board wipe with Witherbloom, you have 6 creatures, you go, boom, I'm gonna drop this for 2. All right, your board wipes are gonna cost less because of your creatures, right? You run Ingaruk's Wake or something, clear all the creatures you don't control, and then you cast Biorhythm. Your opponents don't control any creatures, and this Biorhythm costs you 2 to cast with Witherbloom out. You win the game, right? They have no creatures, their life total becomes 0. Your life total becomes, if you have 6 creatures, becomes 6. You win the game. Last couple cards I want to talk about are Fogs and token producers. Besides the X spell token producers, I think Fogs are actually going to be pretty fun in here. You're going to be a target. People are going to try to bring you down quickly. So running Fogs that give you creature tokens are going to be beneficial, because they're going to help reduce the mana value of your commander, or casting cost of your commander, and your spells once your commander is out. So like cards like Arachnogenesis, 2 colorless and a green, create X 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach, where X is the number of creatures attacking you, and then you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-spider creatures. Somebody's attacking with 10 creatures, boom, Arachnogenesis, I create 10 1/2 spiders. I prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by non-spiders. And then, hey, guess what? Now my commander costs 10 less to cast. My spells cost, I'm going to cast my commander, and then all of my spells cost 10 less to cast. Very similar card came out with the Lord of the Rings set. Galadrim Ambush, 3 colorless and a green. you create X 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens, where X is the number of attacking creatures, and then you prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-elf creatures. So very similar to Arachnogenesis, but elves, very similar situation. You do that, you cast your commander, then you second harvest, and for each token you control, you create a token that's a copy of that permanent for 2 colorless and 2 green. And then the last card is a token producer, but you are going to run a lot of tokens in this deck, and it's for the common good. 2X or XX and a green. For a sorcery, you create X tokens that are copies of target token you control. Then tokens you control gain indestructible until your next turn, and then you gain 1 life for each token you control. Like I said, you're going to be running a lot of tokens, token producers. This gives you, it's a sorcery, but it gives your tokens indestructible until your next turn. So all your tokens are indestructible for an entire turn rotation, and then you gain 1 life for each token you control. So you're basically locking down. You play this around when you plan on winning. Okay, all of my tokens are indestructible. If I have instants to cast on my opponent's turns, you can't touch my tokens unless you exile them. And I'm just going to cast this instant on your turn to take out this player. I'm going to cast this instant on your turn to take out that player, because all of your stuff's going to be reduced. And that's why I think Witherbloom's going to be probably the most powerful Elder Dragon. You're going to see it at a lot of tables once it comes out. With that being said, that's the wrap-up of the Elder Dragons for Secrets of Strixhaven. Please feel free to comment on this podcast of what your favorite Elder Dragon is from Secrets of Strixhaven, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.